Hi everyone, this is Richard. In this video, we're going to talk about logging levels. We're going to go over the logging package, but before we do, we have to understand a little bit about the levels in logging itself. I think this is very important and it's what makes logging difficult. So remember we had this web application and we were able to track this log basically using a print statement. Now what's wrong with that? What's wrong with it is that there is no level of importance for any of this information. It just prints everything out, right? But what if you don't actually want to do that? Did you ever talk to somebody who basically you said, how was your day? And they say, well, I woke up at 6:41 a.m. and I was kind of surprised because I thought it was 6:40, but I realized that, hey, wait a minute, if it's 6:41 and I slept over, maybe that's important. But then before I realized it, I was already awake and I was wasting time. So I thought, maybe tomorrow I'll do, right? And then 20 minutes into the story, they're still on 6:43, right? So you know that you better strap in because this is a long, long story. Now, that is good though in a couple of ways, right? So what if you wanted to know what happened at 10:43, right? You're going to know excruciating detail of what happened at 10:43, right? Because they're going to tell it to you. But at the same time, it's going to be a couple of weeks before you get to 6:41 up to 10:43 a.m. and it's already like 8 p.m., right? So that's the difficulty. If you have pages and pages of stuff to look through, you're going to get really bored and it's going to be very difficult to sort out some details in all of this. And then you probably know somebody you say, oh, how was your day? Good. Okay, and what did you do? Nothing. Did you have a good time doing nothing? Yeah. Okay. So they kind of glossed over that they got into an accident, but they're perfectly fine. So it didn't make a horrible day, and nobody was injured, so they're perfectly fine. And by the way, they almost ran over a dog, but almost. So it shocked them for a little bit, but the dog's still alive, and everybody's okay. So it didn't ruin their day, and so it's a fine day, right? So you're going to miss all that detail, but at the same time, you at least knew it was a fine day, right? It wasn't a disaster. Nobody's dead or anything like that. So in that case itself, maybe that's all you want to know. Is everybody okay? Is everybody safe or not? If I got my information, I'm good to go. And, it took 1 second to get that bit of information. So this amount of information is called granularity. So granularity with regard to data, it means the amount of detail in the data. So if you have fine granularity, it means, I think it's fine versus coarse. So fine-grained data or fine granularity means very detailed data. Coarse granularity means not great detail. But, remember, one is not better than the other. It's different in different ways. So when it comes to logging, you have to determine how much granularity do you want? Do you want really a lot? Understanding that it takes time to print all this stuff, so it may slow your program down. Do you want a lot because you're going to have to read through this stuff if there's something wrong happens, and it's going to take you a couple of years to figure it out because there's just too much information? Which one are you going to do? That, I think, is what makes logging difficult because you have to figure out the granularity by experience. I have not been able to read any good guidelines except very, very gross guidelines in terms of how to do this. So we have levels of logging. These levels goes from all the way to like shout. Starts from low numbers, these values, and up to high numbers. These values are arbitrary, meaning there is no great definition. These are just definitions that I say, I think this should be fine, level of fine, and I think this should be level of shout, and somebody else might say, oh, no, are you kidding me? That should be fine, and this other stuff should be finest. All right, so there's going to be some disagreement. It's just what you would put as a value judgment. But that can be sometimes difficult, right? So some people, when they tell a story, they don't know, well, I woke up at 6:41. That was fascinating to me. But you might think, Can you get on with the story already, right? And another person might think, wow, you almost hit a dog? That's pretty important. But, they might say, well, it happens all the time, right? So that is what you have to determine by experience. But the concepts are, you want to get as fine-grained as you can without going overboard. Not particularly helpful advice, is it? Because that's kind of like a no-duh. But generally speaking, when you go for shout and severe, so when this is information that you really want to get as much detail as humanly possible. If you get as much detail as possible, you as the developer will think, wait a minute, this is a situation where I want to know this, everything that goes on because something bad could potentially happen. I don't think it's going to happen because I think I did a good job writing my code, but I can foresee that this might be a problem. Walking into a bar, that's not going to be much of a problem. How much he drinks? Probably not. Maybe that's going to be a little bit. How about before he gets into a car? Ooh, I think I really want to know something like that. I want to know a lot of information before he gets into the car. So maybe I will do level severe for the number of drinks he has. For just walking into the bar, there's probably not a whole lot of bad stuff, so I'll maybe make that a more of a finer or finest type of information, okay? So the lower the number, the lower the number, the less detail, the higher the number, the more detail. Now, when I first saw this, I was thinking, wait a minute, isn't the opposite? Because all you're telling me, you're logging everything. That's actually not what that means. Doesn't mean that you're logging everything. These levels are not what you're logging. It's more of what you're actually seeing. So if you write levels of shout and severe, you're going to log everything, but you might not actually write things down. You're just going to basically keep track of them on a certain level. I'll go over that in the next few videos, but I just want you to understand the concept that these levels are important for you to determine, but again, they're going to be experience. Maybe in the beginning, everything will be all. Maybe there'll be two levels, all and severe or something like that. But as time goes by, maybe you can refactor your code and you can basically make it a little bit different with the logging levels with more experience. Okay? Thanks.